Stabbings and gang fights are the norm at Cape Flat schools. In the latest incident, a boy was stabbed at Manenberg High School. That's after a fight broke out between two groups of pupils and community members linked to gangs. Let's go live to Athi Mtongana. She's watching that situation for us. Athi, a very good morning to you. I mean, the numbers coming through from the Western Cape are quite alarming. I mean, you've had 17 stabbings already, and we're just in the just into March, and that's 17 already, and involving school pupils.
It's true, Yuveka. Gang violence is increasingly becoming a commonplace in schools in the Western Cape. I mean, that figure of 17 incidents of school stabbings in the Western Cape is indeed very shocking. And in fact, the latest one now happened on Tuesday in Lwandle, involving a grade 9 pupil and a grade 6 pupil. So it's very, very young pupils who are involved in these incidents. Very shocking, Yuveka, that they are already at their age involved in such violent activities. Now, I have with me, Yuveka, just a list of the incidents that have been happening here in the Western Cape. And like I mentioned, the latest one on Tuesday, which was in Lwandle, involving a grade 8 learner, a boy who was allegedly involved in a gambling altercation and then proceeded to go and stab a grade 9 learner after not receiving money from a bet. And obviously now police are looking at that, and the grade 9 pupil is currently in a stable condition in hospital. And then another one that happened here, actually, because we're actually at Manenberg Primary School, where two learners were also involved in a stabbing incident, including a caretaker who tried to break off that fight between the two learners. He also ended up being injured as a result of the scuffle. The learner who instigated allegedly this incident is a grade 6 learner. He allegedly took a pair of scissors trying to stab the other learner, and then obviously he was stopped by those at the premises of the school, including the caretaker. And then shortly after that, that learner allegedly ran and tried to get a broken bottle to try and continue what he was doing, because obviously the scissors was confiscated from him. And then another one, Yuveka, in series, not so far from where we are in Cape Town, 3 pupils there also involved in an altercation, and it is believed there that it was gang related. And then another shocking one, Yuveka, where 5 pupils were also involved in an incident of stabbing in Claremont, following Valentine's Day celebrations there, where about 1,200 pupils descended at various parks there, where they were celebrating Valentine's Day. 5 pupils there in that incident were stabbed, and police obviously confiscated bottles of alcohol, and 2 pupils there were arrested as a result of them attempting to rob people in the public with their fake guns. And this is actually quite a norm here in the Western Cape, Yuveka, where law enforcement agencies confiscate knives, they confiscate fake guns, they confiscate weapons that these young children use to fight in and around these schools.
We've been dealing with this a lot longer in the Western Cape than we have in Gauteng, Athi. And I mean, let's talk about the ages of the suspects. I mean, we're seeing in this latest case, one of the suspects is 13 years old. Just give us some idea. Are you seeing similar ages there when it comes to arrests and suspects and victims as well?
Of course, Yuveka, if you have to remember and think about how, a grade 6 learner is fighting a grade 9 learner, then you have to think about the ages involved of people at that particular grade. I mean, these incidents happen in primary school, they happen in secondary school, as well as high school. So it's not only happening in high schools with teenagers, it's happening with young children as well, as young as 10, 11 and obviously upwards until the teenage years. And I must mention as well that in the Western Cape, Yuveka, in 2017, about 177 instances of pupils being confiscated with drugs, and also In 2017, you also have 56 instances reported where authorities confiscated weapons from pupils, and then that number rose again in 2018 up to 78 instances where authorities confiscated harmful weapons from pupils in primary schools, secondary schools, as well as high schools. So if you have to look at the numbers and the ages, Yuveka, it's as young as 10 all the way up to the teenage years.
Now, actually, we don't want to be presumptuous, and I certainly don't want to stereotype in any way, but you mentioned a lot of gang-related activities or links to these incidents, or some of them that you've spoken about. Is it commonplace that in many of these cases that these suspects or the victims come from areas where gangsterism is rife, that they grow up in these communities, or is it a mixed bag of reasons and motives for these attacks?
It's a mixed range, Yuveka, but obviously one thing that stands out is gang violence, because most of these schools are actually located in communities where gang violence is really rife. I mean, yesterday I spoke to a psychologist who works with a lot of teachers at various schools, and she was saying that how teachers are so overwhelmed with the violence that they have to, try and control when these children get involved in fights, and most of them are, you're right, involved in gangsters. Most of them are linked to gangsterism because they do come from gang-ridden communities. And she was saying how children model what they see. So what happens in the communities, the socio-economic conditions, the poverty that they see and that they experience on a daily basis in their communities is obviously something that leads and something that really, really is an impact in what we see in these school incidents.
Thanks very much, Athi Mtongana.